In this lesson, you will use a number line to compare and place decimals in order from least to greatest or greatest to least. So on this, with this set of decimals, how would you place 9 hundredths, 25 hundredths, or 42 hundredths? Now know that you can add places in between, like between 0 and 2 tenths. What would be in between there? Well, I know that there's a 1 tenth in between here as well. So 9 hundredths is just less than 1 tenth. So 9 hundredths could be placed right here on the number line. In this next decimal, 25 hundredths, I know that the 2 in the tens place would place it between the 2 and the 4 tenths on this number line. So 25 hundredths is going to be somewhere in here. And then going to the next decimal, 42 hundredths, I can see that the 4 in the tens place would place it just above or beyond where the 4 tenths would be. Okay, you can create any number line to place and position decimals in order from least to greatest. So if I was asked to put these 3 decimals in order from least to greatest, my first digit would be 9 hundredths, and then I would have 25 hundredths, and the greatest of this set would be 42 hundredths. Let's try these. Where would you place these on a number line? Pause the video now to practice it. You should see that the 32 hundredths is going to be positioned between the 3 tenths and 4 tenths, somewhere in this range. 3 in the tenths place positions it between the 3 and the 4, and it's just a little bit larger than 32 hundredths or 30 hundredths. The 58 hundredths is going to be just before the 6 tenths, and now this one, the 5 hundredths. Now notice that the 0 in the tens place means that it's just past the 0 and halfway between the 0 and 1 tenth. So 5 hundredths would be right here. Now, if you were asked to put these in order from least to greatest, you can easily see where they're positioned on the number line. I can see that the 0 and 5 hundredths would be least. 32 hundredths would be next, and 58 hundredths would be last. Let's try these into the thousands place. Now let's say I want to position the number 245 thousandths. Okay, what's your clue here? Where are you going to look first? I'm going to see that the 2 in the tens place is going to position this number somewhere between the 2 and 3 tenths, because the 2 in the tens is my first clue, and the 4 is an indicator that it's about almost halfway between it. Okay, so I'm going to position the 245 thousandths about right here. Okay, what if I told you to position 280 thousandths? Okay, again, I can see that it's between the 2 and the 3 tenths, and 8 is a little less than 9 and less than 3, so again, somewhere between the 2 and the 3 tenths, and it's going to be less than 2 and 9/10ths, and 99 hundredths. Okay, the last one I'm going to ask you to position is 209 thousandths. Okay, remember we say the 9 is in the thousandths place, we say that thousandths place last. Again, it's between the 2 and the 3/10ths. Okay, and this is just past the 2/10ths. Okay, so this is going to be smaller. Now to compare these three, all you'd have to do really is look at the number in the tens place. I have a 0 in the tens place, I have a 4 in the tens place, and an 8 in the tens place. So I can easily see that 209 thousandths is the least of this set, 245 thousandths is second, and then finally 280 thousandths is last. Be careful of the order between least and greatest. Follow your directions every time. Okay, let's try one last thing here. In baseball, we talk about batting averages quite a bit. One of the statistics for batters is batting averages, and we compare hitters and how they're doing according to their number of hits divided by the number of at-bats. Obviously, the baseball season isn't happening this year, so we're going to use some past data. Let's use Ramos as he is a 307 hitter. We have Ortiz, former Twins player, and his average was 315 that season. And finally, Murphy hit 347. And 347 thousandths is actually how we should say that decimal. A lot of times baseball players and fans use just 307, 315, or 347. Technically not the correct way to say the decimals as we have taught you. Can you put these in order from least to greatest? Pause the video to put them in order from least to greatest. Alright, I can see that all of these numbers fall between the 3/10ths and 4/10ths. Pretty good hitting, pretty good averages in terms of baseball. And I'm going to start with Murphy at 347. He is about halfway, almost halfway between the 3 and the 4/10ths. 3 and 5/10ths. I'm sorry. 350 thousandths would be exactly halfway between those two. He's just a little less than halfway. Ortiz is above the 3/10ths. He's at the 1/10th, or 3 and 10 hundredths. So 315 thousandths falls just before that. And then Ramos is at 307, and he's going to be before that. So these are actually listed in order from least to greatest. We could again look at the tens place to compare those three numbers. This is in order from least to greatest.